when it is that you look at the things that you have been in your life, the chasing, there's winning and there's misery.
Yeah.
What has been the cost of a lifetime dedicated to sports excellence?
The cost has been obviously probably some of my health, mental health, physical health, to estrangement probably with friends over the years. The cost has been not to say yes to a lot of things that normally I wouldn't, and quite frankly, since I've been here in Miami, with the exception of a few, and I don't even mind those few, I've been treated extremely well by the media, even the media today who continue to cover, the ones that have been here 30 years with me, too. They've criticized me. They've been fair with me. They've been objective, and because we've had some pretty bad years here, and so I've had a trust with all these people, and it doesn't bother me, when I get criticized anymore. It used to bother me. Maybe that's why I would shut the media out, and that's why I would nickname them peripheral opponents, because they can at times, even the best of the best, bring a team down. They could divide a team, and I know on social media today that can happen a lot. And, I don't talk that much about it to the players today because I think they're mature enough and they're different in a way that I think they can handle all this social media stuff, but it does become a major distraction.
Oh, I don't know how you adopt to today's player. I have no earthly idea. I haven't talked to you about this, but I don't have any idea how you observe, sitting out back-to-backs or showing up at media day in a wig or just missing games. I
would have handled it differently. There's no doubt, but I can. The players who want to express themselves in a way that is absolutely anti what my beliefs are in representing an organization, whether it's to grow a bigger brand, to make more money, to go out there that separates themselves a little bit from the pack. There's nothing you can do about that. The league wants it. Content is king. And I have found that out, that trying to keep the media out, the commissioner won't allow that. Access is what it's all about. And so players' personalities today, the younger generation is just different than it was, when I grew up. I grew up, and I think most of us my age grew up at a time when our parents were harder, if we had them. If we had what they would call the nuclear family. It was hard, but it was different. There was, even if it was a stone cold house, there was love there. You had a place to go home every night, and there were two parents that cared about you, that provided for you, that maybe they didn't love you like you wanted them to love you, but it was different. And I'm not saying today's player is not that, but it was harder, and we understood that. And so I understand this generation of players and how they want to go about living their life. It's different in the music they listen to and how they brand themselves and what they wear and how they dress. It might be a little bit more flamboyant than what I want, but that's who they are, and I respect that. But if there's a difference, be who you want to be, but in one of the great biblical terms, render unto Caesar what is his, and when his apostles, when the apostles were trying to give all of their money to our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, he said, no, pay Caesar what he wants, what he is, and then give it to other people. And so as players, they have to render unto the heat really what is theirs too. And while they go out there and they do all these other things, you can't shortcut it with us. And so I've actually explained this to the players, is that while you're under contract to us, you do owe us something. Your collective bargaining agreement contract says that, and so don't ever take that lightly. And we have a very cooperative group of people. But yes, yeah, I feel like I owe, and I have to render unto to Mickey. He's my boss, you know. I don't do it in any other way other than with respect, and I feel the same way about the players.
When I ask you about the cost of excellence, where do you have regret on what the cost was?
I'm never going to apologize to my players for being tough. Never. That's who I was. That's how I was coached. That's how I was raised. That was my approach. But I also had a tremendous compassion for them, even when I was tough on them. So if there's one regret that I might have, it would be a familia regret of not being there really enough for my kids. The schedule just makes it almost impossible. I know it sounds like an excuse, but even long distance, there wasn't FaceTime back then. There wasn't any of these things where you could really contact them other than a call at night, with Elizabeth, talk to Chris, put Elizabeth on for a minute, put James on for a minute. We're chasing our dreams out there still. And that to me, and also, not being around, Chris as much as I, at that time too, and traveling, and that's why I don't travel now that much, because I don't want to be away from her, at this age, So, and he's got the trips. He's got the road trips, and he mixes up the road trips now by going and seeing, the Eagles or Springsteen or something. So
but Pat, it's not just the schedule though. Yeah. It was the schedule combined with the obsession. You were and you are a maniac.
Yeah, well, I'm not a maniac, but I was definitely preoccupied. You can call it, whatever you want, describe it. But
you just told me I couldn't call it maniac. It's obsessed. You were obsessed with work, with excellence, with not getting caught from behind.
Too.
No, correct. But it pulls me away from some of the things that I love that you're now talking about when you're saying, I wish I could have been there, especially when you're saying, I want to be there every minute now with Chris, because you have a better appreciation for the stuff that matters the most.
That matters the most, right, yeah. So, when you come to that thought process, I'll steal another quote, don't know who the author was. A man or woman's, greatest fear is their fear of extinction. But what they should fear even more than that is to become extinct one day with insignificance. And what that always meant to me is that all I ever wanted to do in my life is something that mattered and counted. And I did that in sports. I didn't do that as a husband or a father as much as I wish I could have. So that's something that we all talk about. When you talk to longtime life coaches, they would, at my age, all of them say the same thing. I wish I could have. I'm Nick Saban, Dick Bennett, these coaches that are getting out of college basketball that are great coaches. And they were asked questions why they're leaving at such an early age. And they're all talking about, I always felt that my job as a coach was to develop young men, was to help them grow, and when they graduate from my university, that they're ready. And this NIL or this portal or all the things that are going on in college sports right now has driven some of the greatest coaches, from what their passion was and what they thought they were doing out.
But what you're talking about, Pat, correct me if I'm wrong, you're not just talking about the schedule. When you say I wish I could, what you're saying is the demands of the job are such that if you're going to be obsessed enough to be excellent, that combined with the schedule makes it almost fundamentally impossible
Right.
for someone to be a present father and husband. Maybe some figure it out because they've got some magical stardust, but you thought you had to be working 20 hours a week, correct? Or 20 hours a day.
Well, we did. But Chris and I figured it out. I mean, we figured it out, and you understand it. So, I mean, just the nature of the job for 57 years is that our life was from September until the end of the season, April, May, June. You're in this life, and it could be a wonderful Orient Express ride or a train wreck. And you have to go through that. And your life is owned by a schedule, and you have to work everything around that schedule. That's all there is to it. And so, you know, when you have that kind of schedule, and then your vacation time is simply from August to September 1st, and that's it every year.
Because you're winning late into the season.
But that's
every
it.
season.
It's like one big run on.
No, but there's also also, it's not just on a treadmill. It's also there's winning and there's misery.
Yeah.
So you're joyless. You're well, when you're winning, you're joyful, but then when you're not, you're miserable. Is that not what you're bringing home?
Sometimes, the whole winning and misery thing, I think, is just a saying about trying to accentuate, to your players. Look, I'm going to tell you something. There's winning and there's misery, and there's no in between. All this joy crap and all that stuff, this is winning. It's not even joyful. It's you win to get to the next game. And if you lose, you're miserable and you're more anxious to get to the next game to win. And so I hate to have sort of created that message today, and because it's not that way. But I can tell you, once the season was over with and you go down the rabbit hole for a week or two if you didn't win, I'm a pretty joyous man, and we have a lot of fun, and I can leave a lot of that behind me. It doesn't mean that I'm not making some trade in the middle of the Mediterranean, a 5-team trade, or whatever it is, but I've learned over the years to be able to lighten that load on my mind to live a life of normalcy.
You're not as obsessed as you used to be.
No, I'm not, but I'm not, and I'm glad I'm not. I can't be, but I'm still totally engaged.